Okay, I'm gonna do another video, and I think as far as my EDC, this will probably be my last video for now. I may do some more things in the future with multi-tools or just with some of the other tools I do, but for right now, this is probably gonna be it. I might start getting into my idea behind the philosophy of EDC and do some videos on that. But right now, let's focus on pens. So I don't have a deep love for pens like I do with knives or flashlights or multi-tools. But I do have, obviously I have an enjoyment of them because these are some very fancy pens that I have here. Sorry. This is and if there's background noise, I apologize for that. It's hot here in Southern California. We're in the middle of summer and a heat wave, and I have the fan on in the background. So please bear with me with that. But some of you may recognize this is a Machine Era Classic. This is their Machine Era Classic with the ridge pattern. You know, the little rings instead of this little collar looking pattern. I'm not sure what to call it. And this is a tactile turn, bolt action, standard length. Not the mini or the other one. Now I've also had a Big Idea Design TI Pocket Pro, and that was where I kind of got, and I'm going on a little bit of a rant here where I feel like Big Idea Design kind of charges too much for what they do. I get they have very original and patented designs, but they kind of get, my experience with the TI Pocket Pro was not great. So this, just so you know, and if you haven't seen my first video, that's where I talk about this. I carry my pens just here in this pouch. This one goes in there, you know, and the TI Pocket Pro I carried in here, and it would come apart on me. It would come unscrewed, and it would really annoy me because when I needed a pen, it would just come apart. And I get it's not the pen's problem, it's more of the way I carried it problem. But also, I just feel like Big Idea Design charges way too much for their things. And I might be the only one that feels that way, but I think I get their original designs, and making things out of titanium is expensive. I mean, this is $100 pen. These are stainless, and they're like, I think when I bought this one, it was 35, and this one was about 50, almost 40 something. And I think that's how much these are now too. These are about close to 50. So I get it. This is titanium. These are stainless. Fancy pens are expensive, but for the I don't know. There's something about their pens that their little collar system that you can use any cartridge in is cool, but also if you're the kind of guy that just uses one type of cartridge, then it's kind of the point is moot to me. It's a moot point because my favorite is the Pilot G2, right? And the G2 in 0.0 or 0.38 millimeters. But I've actually recently switched to the V5. If you could see that. Focus. But yes, I switched to the V5. And honestly, I think I might stay there. I'm going to try it out for a while and see how I like it. I think this still has a Pilot G2 in it. And that's what I carried in my my TI Pocket Pro. And like I said, I just don't like what they charge for things. Like this tool here is not worth 80 bucks. I get it's made out of titanium, but this is not an $80 tool. And I'm not, I would, if I lost this, I would not purchase another one. And I don't have any hate for Big Ideas, although it sounds like I do. I don't have any hate for them. I'm just not in love with what they're charging for the prices, or sorry, what they're charging for the things that they're selling. I'm just not in love with it. At one time I wanted to get a BitBar Inline Max or even the BitBar, and everything's over $100. I'm just not in love with the tools. Maybe it's just a me thing. I'm not in love with the tools, but I'm rant over. I'm not going to rant about that anymore. I'm going to move on and talk about these pens. When I first started out with pens, I just needed them because at my job I wrote a lot. And my favorite was actually the V5, the plastic Pilot V5 that you could buy at Walmart, 5-packs. And I used that for a long time. And then I do have a love for fountain pens. I don't have any because having a fountain pen is sort of a pain in the ass. And what I mean by that is, like, unless you're using a converter, then you're using international cartridges. And if you're using international cartridges, they don't last very long if you're doing a lot of writing. And then if you don't do a lot of writing, they'll last you a while, but then the nib gets dry, and then you've got to wet the nib, and it's just easier to have something with a sealed cartridge like these. So, you know, I still I wanted a nice pen, and I eventually settled on this. This was probably like other than the Pilot Metropolitan, and I tried a couple Kaweco Lilliputs and then a Kaweco Supra, and I just couldn't, like, with the fountain pens, what made me fall out of love with them was I was using the Pilot Metropolitan, which at the time was like a $20 pen. And I don't know how much it is now, but at the time it was $20. And I'd use it, and it was a great pen. I bought a bunch of cartridges. They're proprietary cartridges, so you have to buy Pilot's cartridges for them. But I dropped it right on the nib. And I went through like 5 of them, and in like the course of a year or two. And it's $20 a piece. I spent $100 essentially on the same pen, you know, not including the cartridges I bought for it. So I'm like, no, let me get something that uses a cheap cartridge, and it's not gonna like destroy the pen. I can just replace the cartridge in it, because essentially I had to buy a new pen because the nib in it, it's a Pilot Metropolitan nib. So I went with this, and then not too long after that, I was like, well, you know, and this is after the Big Idea TI Pocket Pro. I went with this not too long after that, because I'm a fan of the no moving parts on this, of it just being a solid chunk of steel. But the no clip was a little annoying, and the fact that I have to, you know, uncap it every time and post the cap and then write with it. Where a lot of times I would just uncap it, jot something down, and then recap it. Or sorry, not like that. Recap it and then put it away. I still carry these, so it's not that I don't hate it as much as I'm making it sound in video, but it is a little bit of a pain. So now I went with this because this is the simplest thing as far as moving parts. It's just a spring and a barrel and a bolt screwed into the side of the barrel. It's just milled, and the tall. I'm a machining guy. No, I don't do machining. I have an interest in it. And look at this. Look at this. Look at that. They blended that in seamlessly. One of my favorite things to do is hand this to people and say, how would you take that apart to get the cartridge in? And they always think it's like from the back. And when I show them, they go like, wow, that's amazing. They did such a good job machining that. To me, that's worth $100 right there. Okay. And that's, you know, I'm not going to get back on the rant with Big Idea Design, but this is awesome. I'm not in love with Big Idea Design. Their designs, you know, just sound redundant. But and then Machine Era came out with this, and I really like this pattern a little bit better than this one. And I honestly have not carried this one since I've gotten this. It's been between these two, and I like this so much, and because it's a limited edition, I bought a second one. Because if I ever lose this one, I always have a 1 is none and 2 is 1. I have a backup. So that's kind of my pen journey. This isn't going to be a real long video. That's just kind of where I'm at. I don't have a great love for pens. In fact, I'll have to omit or take back what I said at the beginning of the video. I have one more video I'm going to do, which might be long, which is going to be about watches, because that was a big, I mean, that was more of a cluster than knives or multi-tools for me. But yeah, that's kind of it for the pens. Really recommend this. Really recommend this. You know, any of these, or if you just want a cheap pen, just go get your favorite cheap pen. You don't have to get something fancy like this to EDC. But if you have an interest, I would suggest these. And honestly, even Big Idea Design, if you're willing to pay the price, they're not bad pens. I carried mine for a while, and I did enjoy it. But eventually I got sick of it because of the issues I was experiencing. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Thank you for your viewership. Thank you for listening to me and for putting up with me for these 11 and a half minutes. You know, God bless you and your family, and you guys have a good one. Thanks again. Bye.